This week on Chapters Over Coffee, we officially hit the halfway mark in the book. I want to welcome anybody new listening to the podcast, as well as thank you all for listening. Now, I don't have much to say in this introduction today, so let's jump right in.
So we open up. The Quicksilver is excited to see that Saeris has come to it. It was calling to her to join them, saying that it will help. She felt that the words were sinking into her bones and were reverberating through her head. And she's wondering if the Quicksilver at this point, could kill her because she doesn't have a relic. If you remember in Quicksilver, the last time she went through the Quicksilver, itself, she was dragged in by the gods. She was ripped out of Fisher's arms. And so she's like now wondering, is it going to be different if I go into the Quicksilver without having a relic? Um, she's also wondering if this could be the key to her magic, if it's something that she has to do to be able to bond with it, to show that she trusts it. She's got light coming from her runes. It's lighting up the tomb brightly, and it's so bright that it's hurting her eyes. It's building, it's straining, probing and mounting, like all of that energy. So kind of concentrates. She lets in the power. The room spins around her, and a void falls over her. Fears running through her mind. It even says like the tide of magic scared her. The storm of power was growing by the second. Um, so she gives herself a pep talk to breathe. It's not something to be afraid of. It's part of her, part that she hasn't just gotten to know yet, that she can do it. And she continues to say, like, when you had no one else, you relied on yourself. When no one rode to the rescue to save you and Hayden from dying of thirst, you saved yourself. And the moment that she stops fighting it, she feels the magic kind of zip through her nerve endings. She opens her eyes. Her shield flares with blue-white energy as she reaches for the Quicksilver and summons it. She decided the portal was open, and it was. She steps into the Quicksilver pool in that moment, and she thinks about how it feels like ice around her ankles. She immediately feels like she needs to just tuck tail and run, that she made a mistake. She immediately starts to think of how Heron reacted when the Quicksilver touched him that in that moment. And the Quicksilver then starts to speak to her. It calls her a half-breed, that her name is Ruination, it's Blight, it's a curse worker, she doesn't deserve to live. It says that there are others that are worthy. She counters that none of them stand before them in that moment, and it responds to her saying that only the worthy seek power. She's like, I don't want power. I didn't ask for this. I just want peace. She wants peace for her friends, for her people to be safe, and the Quicksilver then responds back, and you would employ your power to achieve that end. Her response is that she would employ it for anything. It's not a weapon, it's just a part of her. It calls her a foolish child, saying that power is always a weapon. Wield it or it wields you. So in that moment, pain explodes behind her eyes. The Quicksilver is in her mouth. It's pouring down her throat. It's going in her ears. She yells that she doesn't know what it wants for her, what it needs, and it tells her to wield it. The dark horizon is looming, asking what she would do to prevent it. She says, anything. I'll do anything. It says, would you die? She says yes. Then it asks if she would kill. She says yes. It then asks if she would give up that which is most dear to her. She opens her mouth in that moment to say something, but nothing comes out. And then she's like, no, I can't do that. I'm not going to sacrifice him. That's one thing that I'm not going to do. As soon as she says that, the Quicksilver, in that moment is silent. She's like, fuck, this was a test. I failed so bad. And it speaks to her again, saying, good, every alchemist must have someone they are afraid to lose. And the Quicksilver begins to retreat. She's crying, and it says the pathway is clear. Receive this gift, all in fear and trembling. In the end, it will be your end. And next thing you know, she's flying out of the Quicksilver, hits her wall, and she blacks out. Which I was like, I didn't even know what to think in that moment because I'm like, what the fuck just happened? Like, did it
Right.
just attack her? Like, what is, is this another, like, thing from the gods or whatever, even though they said that they couldn't interfere anymore? Like, is this, what's going on?
Right.
So next we are back, we're back with Elroy and the gang. He's telling them, if you remember when we left off with them, holy wow, there's the biggest fucking Quicksilver pool anybody has ever seen. Now Roy's just like, oh yeah, it's just been down here for fucking years. Like,
Yep.
no big deal. We just,
Add to
all
it.
of that. He's telling them, we pick back up in the conversation, he's telling them like they were metal workers, who else was going to do what they were doing. They were adding
Hmm.
to the pool over the years, or they were adding to the Quicksilver. It wasn't even like a legit pool and stuff that they were adding to. They were just like refining the Quicksilver, pulling it out of metal pieces, um, weapons, jewelry, anything that was laced with the Quicksilver. They were pulling it out of there.
But how were they
Uh,
able to handle it?
That's what I don't know. We didn't really touch anything on that. And I wonder if they were just too shocked to even think to maybe ask that question.
I don't
But that
know.
is a good question. But Elroy even says like it was separate. It was not one whole piece, then Saeris was taken and all of a sudden it like turns all to liquid, it fused together, forming this giant pool. Elroy even says, like, I knew it was Saeris. I knew it had something to do with her. She couldn't resist touching weapons that didn't belong to her. So he figured that she touched the sword. And, I was like, holy shit. Like, even Fisher was like, how the fuck did you know about the sword? Um, and Elroy, he's just so calm during all of this. He's like, well, naturally, Solace kept the doorway closed. Like, no big deal. He knew it was a phase sword. He'd never seen it in person. He's seen drawings of it when he was a kid, which I was excited about and then pissed when I found out
Yeah.
what he did, because Fisher's like, okay, where's these drawings? I need to see them. Elroy's like, they're gone. They burned in a fire when I was 15. Father was a drunk. He drank himself to help with the voices. Um, he fell asleep. The hearth raged out of control. It gutted the forge floor, nearly killing him. Um, and after that, there was only a few pages left, and he had burned those about 5 years prior. To say the least, Fisher's fucking pissed that none of this is left. He argues that he did it for Saeris. He knew her power was greater than she knew, and she was very terrible at hiding it. I want to know was I'm assuming then I that his dad was an alchemist
See, I was wondering that too because how was
because
he
it
hearing
says he,
voices?
yeah, yes, yes. That's what I wondered. That is what I wondered also. Because they only talked about how the alchemists went crazy. And then, because of the voices in their head and everything from the
Now,
Quicksilver.
is it just a pick and choose who wants, like, who they want to be an alchemist, or does it run in a family? Because why is he not hearing voices? Or is that how he can touch it? Maybe his whole family is, and he's not letting that come out? He's protecting himself?
Maybe. Unless maybe it skipped Elroy because the gods had already planned on intervening with Saeris and bringing her, so she was going to be the next, like,
Oh,
alchemist
maybe.
of that, and it skipped. I'm not sure. But I did wonder though, obviously his ancestors knew his dad, Fisher's dad,
Right.
because there's no way, like, which makes sense because knowing about Solace and everything, like he found people to entrust Carrion to. Of course, he would entrust everything else. So then, where did his father go? Part of me even wondered if Elroy isn't an ancestor. That if maybe Finrin uh made a life there, and he's, you know, an ancestor of Fisher's. Who I don't know.
Just
It would be interesting.
I don't think he would have fell in love though with anybody else.
Unless she foreseen it and told him this is what needs to happen.
Maybe.
I mean, she was a pretty powerful seer that we just don't have the full story yet.
Right.
Or it was, hey, find somebody to trust to do what needs done and go into hiding, and his father's body isn't buried somewhere in Zilvarin, but he is, in fact, hiding somewhere amongst the people like Carrion did, but maybe in a different ward to
But
not
how how'd she end
risk
up with Solace?
attention.
No, but how did she end up with Solace? Madra. To close
I
the
don't know. Who's to
Quicksilvers.
say he didn't? I just don't think his dad's dead. Unless he's imprisoned in the castle. I don't know. I need the book. I need book 3 already. Because I
What do we
imagine
find
we
out
aren't
in
going to
this
get these
one?
answers. I imagine we aren't going to get these answers in this book.
Maybe.
Um, anyways, sorry, side note. Little detour. He goes on to describe that when Saeris was little, the air would prickle every time she stepped into the forge, the tools would rattle. Even Carrion said that he had no experience with magic, but he was able to feel something when she was around. So that's when Elroy took her in as his apprentice, so that way he could keep an eye on her. And this next part was pretty saddening. When her mother had died, they didn't have anybody, but he could not take them in because of the energy that followed her was getting stronger. And he couldn't risk having her around all the time. He felt that she was safer on the street because if a guardian had happened to walk into the forge, was able to feel the energy, they would have taken her away a long time ago.
They would have
And that
killed
just would not
him.
have been good. Yeah, that wouldn't have been good for any of them. Um, and then he also goes on to say that that meant that he couldn't risk having those papers there anymore. So he burned them. He stopped refining the silver. He knew that it led to madness, death. He's seen what it did to his father. He didn't want to abandon her after seeing what it did, um, to his father and what he had heard about his grandfather. So I wonder if maybe if he wasn't an alchemist, maybe just being around that much quicksilver, starts to depend on somebody to try to release it. Like I don't know. Um, Carrion, he decides to mention, hey, we don't have to even go back to the palace. Like, we can just use this pool right here. But Fisher's like thinking, I'm not fucking leaving. I'm not leaving until I find out how Madra is sending infected feeders through the pool. And he begins to tell them that he can't go back with them when all of a sudden the pool just fucking explodes. He notices that it's being weird. It's acting real bubbly. Like, it's very uh what's the word, uh
Active?
volatile, like it's
Mm.
very volatile. It reminded me of like a bubbly cauldron. Um, Fisher is in the process of thinking things through, and he's wondering if that means that Saeris could be in trouble, and it's reacting to like her, um, kind of like her emotions. Like, is it connected to her emotions? Is it trying to say like, "Hey, like she's in trouble"? So he gives them the relics, or he gives Hayden the relic at least, and he tells them all to think about Saeris, and they fucking step through the Quicksilver. Um, and we're immediately back with Saeris, who she wakes up on the ground. She's shocked. You know, the Quicksilver is, um, like she's shocked. I think that it's still awake. Because something is coming through in that moment. She does recognize who it is, but she couldn't think of what his name's. But he had been at her coronation, I think, there. Because she asked, no, not her coronation.
Is that the
It
Daces?
was uh,
Before Malcolm died.
yeah, back at the maze and stuff. He's the one who made the comment, you know, like, do you not bow to a king? And she's like, he's not my fucking king. Like, I'm not bowing to anybody.
Wait, was
But it
that
was Bellicon. It wasn't for Malcolm. It was for Bellicon.
the
And it
very
wasn't,
beginning of book one? It was when she got
yes,
taken to the Winter Palace.
I'm sorry. Yes, not the maze. Way back in the very beginning. Um, Definitely have my moments crisscross. Um, he walks through. He's like, "Hey, thanks for leaving the door open. Like we've been waiting for an invitation. My name's Orius. I don't know. Um, but he says they've been waiting for that invitation for a real long time. So Malcolm just apparently did not want them anywhere near Amentraeth. Like they kept their distance. But he calls himself a seneschal. Seneschal. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Basically, it's a fancy term for advisor to the king. So of course Saeris pipes up. She's like, "Yeah, we call those fucking bootlickers where I come from." He does not like that at all. He tells her to shut her mouth, and you know, she's like, "I'm not interested in what you have to say. I don't want your offer." Um, And he says that Bellicon is willing to offer shelter from the rot that's spreading in exchange for a small number of concessions on her end, and that the trade would be her service as an alchemist, along with giving back Lane. He wants his daughter back. Oh, and he wants Fisher in shackles with a public execution.
Not
No,
happening.
not happening at all. He doesn't even get all of those words out before she draws solace. She refuses. She's like, I'm not about to be his tool. Neither are her friends, to which he's like, fucking oath-bound. They really
Mm-hmm.
have no other choice. Because they are fucking oath-bound.
And it's all
And
because when they pledged to be a warrior at the statue.
yep. Um, oh, he even has the nerve to say that Bellicon wants his sword back. That they know that she can't wield it because people around Amentraeth or in the court or whatever are whispering about how she's not able to do it. So, you know, she's pointing the sword out. She twists the sword, and he can see that her hands are covered in runes. Smirk immediately wiped off his face. He mutters, fuck. Like he knows shit's about to get real.
Mm.
This was my favorite fucking part in this chapter, but she does the unthinkable. Like she imagines, like she just immediately, it's like her fucking power just snaps into place. But she imagines Solace becoming two swords. And it fucking happens. Like Solace becomes two short swords that she is able to wield so easily. And dude orders that people that he came with, he's got 5 guys with him. He orders them to kill her. And they're like, we don't want to fucking do this. Like, they're hesitant. They know they're about to get their asses kicked, but they reach for their arrows anyways. He tells them to use their knives because she's like, I wouldn't even bother doing that. The other ones are about to come back for you. Um, so I don't know what this dude's name is. I have no idea how to pronounce it, but he
Some
tells
or.
her, yeah. Um, he tells her that Milliken actually had figured out how to limit the alchemist's powers, and that all of the soldiers are equipped with a null blade after they complete training to be able to fight them off, and then wishes her good luck. Um, she notices like the swords look really normal. Normal handles, normal looking blades, but then after she takes a second glance at them, she notices that there's something about them. The air shivers, it distorts around them as if it's being pulled into the swords itself. And she's feeling a little bit nervous because she has not called on Solas's power since Malcolm attacked her. She's honestly been a little bit scared too. And so she's got to kind of like do shit in that moment. And the guys start charging at her like one by one. She's remembering all of the drills that Lorith has put her through. She's hearing his voice in her head, like, watch your feet work, all of that. She's replaying everything. And dude then tells her that there's still time to agree to the offer. She refuses once again. And now she's down, and at this point, she's already fought off two of the guys. She's got three more, and here comes Big Daddy. Big Daddy
Big
has
Daddy.
come through that Quicksilver. He's come to her rescue. He yells her name. He unleashes his shadows. He grabs a guy by the throat. He asks her, do you need me? And she's like, no, I fucking got this. And he lets her like do her thing. Like, he trusts her. He knows.
You have your moment.
And yeah. So then Carrion comes into the room. He's like, holy fuck. She has summoned a shield from her hand. Like, she's coming into her power like a fucking badass at this point in this chapter. And let's see. It says, because I didn't know how to like do this, but he was there on the other side of the tomb. His face was bathed in blue as a giant icon formed in the air in front of me, projecting from my hand. It was my shield. The interlocking runes were an exact copy of the sigil on the back of my hand. Most of the icon's lines were through it at the top. It blazed, or wait, oh my gosh. Backtrack. Most of the icon's lines were dull, apart from one rune, a circle bisecting a cross with a line cutting through it at the top. It blazed with magic, hovering there, waiting. I spread my fingers and twisted my hand, noting how the veins at my wrists were strangely silvered beneath my skin, and the quicksilver rune turned in the air like a key turning into a lock. It snapped into place, and a wall of energy detonated out from it, hurling the two remaining guards across the tomb. They hit the ceiling, their necks snapping instantly. A second later, they dropped to the floor again, lifeless. Like, she took that power, she fucking ran with it in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So then he's all like, look at me. Like, he's speaking into her mind. He's like, look at me. I'm going to get you out of here, but I need you to stay here just a tiny bit longer. And I think he asks if she's okay or whatever. And then he's like, okay, good girl. Like, come stand by me. I'm like, oh, okay. Dude's like, you're gonna fucking pay for what you did. Fisher's like, torture is not really my jam. I'm willing to make an exception. And Saeris is like, no, we're not like them. You need to send him back. Bellicon needs to know, like, what I'm capable of. And he's like, can we send him back without his fingers? Like, does he really fucking need them? And she's like, no. Like, we're not doing that. He's even like, I'm not going back. You might as well just fucking kill me. And, Fisher's like, I got feeders on the other side of this door. Like, I'm happy to turn you into one. Um, he doesn't want to do that. He's like, fine, fine, I'll go. He quickly closes the Quicksilver pool after Fisher boots him because he's like talking shit still, running his mouth. And then Fisher basically tells Carrion, like, hey, why don't you show her what we did? And Carrion's like, this belongs to you. Here you go.
All right, and
I
then
don't know if
into
you
the
have
next.
anything to add to
Oh
it. Um,
no.
but I did my best to kind of sum up a lot of it, but
You take good. So going into the next chapter, Hayden's, now in Nivalia, even though he's knocked out from traveling through the Quicksilver. Saeris reflects on this time about, her last words and how she had told him that he was such a burden his whole life to her and that he needed to just leave her alone. That way he wouldn't follow her to what she was about to do. Helena then reminds, Saeris that it took Carrion a couple of days to wake up from his first time going through the Quicksilver, although Carrion is Fae, so that could have helped his time. But if we think back, even though she was injured, it took her a little bit too to wake up as well.
yeah.
And again, she was injured, but she was also not Fae either.
Mm-hmm.
They have Hayden currently in college, which makes sense, because Amandreath is out of the question. That just means that they're going to have to travel back and forth, which I believe that they still have the Shadow Gate open or left open right now. Taylena also states that Saeris had looked exhausted and that she needed to rest, that she would look over Hayden while she did that. And then at this point, Saeris kind of like notes how she felt different. That everything around her felt different now that she had binded herself with the Quicksilver. Like everything's in place. Now, Taylina did mention that she wasn't able to help Saeris heal and mentions it's never been an issue that she has countered before. Now it's because of her. Sorry. Is this because of her runes being sealed? Is it because she's half fae, half vampire? Or is it because she has the chance to heal herself?
Yeah.
But Taylina can't touch her right now. And then we kind of jump a little bit, and Saeris is on her way to Fisher's room, and she encounters Archer and the other fire sprites. And it caused Archer to panic because she is not supposed to see them working, like cleaning the room, setting it up until dinner time when they're bringing the food. One of the fire sprites brings or picks up an ornament that they were not supposed to touch, and this causes Archer to even freak out even more because it was Adina's favorite ornament. It was an ornament of a kingfisher. When she was pregnant with Fisher, she was taken by it. So on his first birthday, she announced that people should call her son Kingfisher. It was also noted that Adina did not keep like little knickknacks like that. She was not one to collect things. But this had caught her eye. But Archer was so panicked and stressed that he kicks everyone out of the room, threatening them that he'd lead them outside in the snow and turn them into doorsteps or door stumps. All right, so then now Fisher's in the room. He brings up how hot it was that Sarah single-handedly took out 5 guards with her pretty new short swords. The names were Aramar and Selenir. I'm not sure if that's how you properly pronounce them. He translated the Aramar meant mercy, the Selenir meant honor. Saeris thought that the gods had taken her right away from her to name them herself, but Fisher believed that they were traits they decided to bless her with, hence the names. And then she brings up because in the last chapter we just got done talking about that the Aureus tried to tell her, that Fisher and his friends were oath-bound to Belican, but while they are in college, they are safe. Belican cannot command them to do anything because there are wards that prevent his compulsion to reaching them. They would need to be in his physical presence, and Fisher believes he's not leaving the Winter Palace. We note back again that now that the runes are sealed, since she has pretty much accepted the Quicksilver, that the veins on her wrists were not normal color, they were metallic silver. And then they kind of both just decide, like, hey, 2 days was too long, even though they had dream sex with each other. So at this point, where you go, I go, they made this promise that they're not leaving each other for very long. And then she notices that on Fisher's hand, his Quicksilver rune was now solid and marked in metallic blue-black. So now both of their veins are like, or like their runes are like different colors. So I wonder what exactly that means. We have yet to find that out. So I kind of like question, like, is it because he used his powers? Is this what allowed him to use powers back in Zolvarin? Like, is this
Ooh.
why his turned? So we don't know exactly what entails now that both of their runes have changed. And this made me wonder. She calls him the Prince of Shadows. Why doesn't she call him King? They're mated. Like, they
Yeah.
accepted. He's technically, like, because she's the queen, he'd be the king, a king, essentially. So why did he call her, or why did she call him Prince and not King?
I mean, King of Shadows sounds better.
I
So does,
know.
so does Shadow Daddy, but I mean,
But
obviously that's
why
core
Prince of
too.
Shadows? Why Prince of Shadows? They start to get intimate, and Fisher points out that Saeris is perfect, she has no flaws. This starts to get him to name off things, and he doesn't. And then they talk about, like, she brought up, some would say that I'm your weakness. Your love for me is your weakness, but he doesn't see it as his weakness. He actually sees it as his strength.
Hmm.
Um, they do the wham bam, thank you, ma'am. Really nothing special on this one. I'd give it a 3 on the spicy chart, if that. It wasn't. We've had better. Let's just put it that way. But, and I'm so mad we didn't find out what it is. But Fisher gets a new tattoo.
Hmm.
A piece of Saeris's god binding had moved to just below his collarbone. And I'm so mad because she's like, okay, you know what? He can find that one out on his own, just like I had to find mine out on my own. We have yet to find out what it was.
Yep.
Give me a hint. Is it her name? Is it the butterfly? What is it? So going into the next chapter, there's kind of a lot to unpack here. It kind of gives us an insight on what's about to come. So, and I swear, I no, I don't know. I couldn't find it when I went back. I think this is what I was gonna look up. Oh, was it in this chapter? Saris notes that they were covered up. Like they had both gone to sleep naked and they were covered up, and she believes that Archer went in their room and covered them up. I don't remember. Where did I read that? But at this point, Archer's running in, waking both Fisher and Saris up, needing Fisher's help. Saris takes it as something happened to Hayden, but when she runs to his room, she sees him. He's still laying in bed, passed out. Archer was able to let her know, hey, it's not your brother, it's Everlayne. So upon getting to her room, everyone was in there. Everlayne's thrashing, or what Saris describes as she looked like she was pretty much having a seizure. Her body was bowed so badly that only the crown of her head and the heels of her feet were touching the bed, and she was on the verge of biting her tongue off. So they were trying to get something in her mouth at that point. And after reading this part, like something had to have happened after either trying to pull the venom out of her, like what happened to Everlayne after Malcolm's thrall? There's more to it than we know, because was it from his venom? Was it, I think I have it a little bit later on. Was it Saeris opening that gate when she was told to open the gate? And that's when Adina came in through Everlayne's blood. Like something happened there.
I don't know.
Um, this part kind of bad moments at the time, but this part had me cackling because
Oh
Carrion
yeah,
heard
minding their
screaming.
own business.
Yes, when he was minding his own business and kicked down the door to Lane, strangling Taylena. But it took both Carrion and Danya to get her off, which turns it gets Fisher to be like, "Why are you up here?" To which she was like,
Minding my own
"Also
business.
minding my own business." Fisher knew right then and
No
there, like,
way.
yeah, no. So he sends her to go find Lorith, but before she leaves, she like stares at Carrion like she doesn't want to leave him. So I believe someone's in love already with the real king. Everlayne then starts screaming, to stay back, to leave her alone. Taylin is not sure what's wrong with her, but she does feel something there. Something wasn't right. She states that it felt like there was a weight pressing down on her, that her soul was dressed in shadows. Is it a demon? That was kind of like my first thought. Is it a demon? Did Malcolm do something when he enthralled her? Is it the outcome of taking his venom out of someone once they're enthralled? Um, Lane is still screaming, don't over and over again. When she opens her eyes and Saeris notices at this point a figure is lurking there. It was a dark outline of a lumen figure growing as it got closer to her. At this point, Fisher's like, is she awake? Like, is she there? Taylor says that she can feel Lane's mind as if she's awake, but her conscience felt like it was behind a wall. Uh, they all knew something was hurting her, but there was nothing that they could do at this point. Saeris does feel Lane's head. She does feel the same thing that Taylena had felt. It felt like a dark hand was hovering over her and pressing her down into the wet soil of hell. But she wasn't alone in that place. And then a voice spoke out of Everlayne saying, "The gate is open. It cannot be open." Or that's what I was looking for. I think I wrote that wrong. I think it says the gate is open. It cannot be closed.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's where. Is that what it is? That's
Yeah, page 374.
okay. Is it 370? Well, that's all the. Oh, yes, it cannot be closed. Okay. I knew I had. That was what I was supposed to look up. And then Everlane just stopped and fell motionless. And I'm like, I read that. I'm like, shit, did she just like die? Like, but I'm assuming she's just back unconscious. Like she's back in that deep sleep. And this
Yeah.
is this is where I had wrote, is this the same gate that Saeris was supposed to open to talk to Adina? Or did something open when Saeris went into the Quicksilver? When she finally fused with the Quicksilver, did something happen in that time?
Yeah.
At this point, though, they're all guessing. They're all trying to guess what happened. Lorith believes that it's connected to the rot somehow. And then Maynor chimes in and says, I quoted this, that he said it was possible He's like, I've never read anything like this happening in Ivalia before, but my research has revolved mostly around court politics. My own personal interest in varying magics has given me some insight into elemental magics, shadow magics, blood magics, and the like, but the infection stems from no vein of magic that I've heard of before. It is either very old or very new. Either way, we currently have no way of stopping it, and we have no clue how it might be affecting the realm. The presence of some magics have been known to cause seizures in the very young. And then, and then at the end, he just states, that it could be that as this rot approached Kalish, it somehow affected Everlayne. And that's all they can kind of come up with is that maybe it's the rot. And does it have to do with vampire venom at some way? Because it also affects the feeders. Like we know that it affects the feeders. So does like this rot feed
Mhm.
off of vampire venom? At this point, Lorth wants to let Renfis know, what's happening, but Fisher didn't want to yet. There was nothing that he could do at this point. He needed to get the word out, as many villages as he could. So Fisher makes a call to get that they're gonna take as many books from Algate, no matter what. Whether it pisses her
Yeah.
off, she tells them no, they're taking as many as they can find. Uh, he was gonna have Danya, tell the warriors to pack up. They're coming back to Kalish. She wasn't happy at all, and neither was Lorth, but Lorth was the one that kept his mouth shut. There was no longer anything to defend at the border, and all the infected feeders were just going to cross no matter what. Like it was not stopping them. It was actually helping them get further across.
Yeah.
Laura at this point, Lorth was to go get Ishabel because they needed a witch to help Everlayne, hoping both that her and Talena can bring her out of the fugue state she was in. Talena was just supposed to stay there with both Hayden and Lane, so that way she could keep an eye on both of them. And Karen was going back to Almontraeth with Fisher and Saeris. And it was Fisher's idea. Saeris had wanted to let Fisher know, hey, he's coming with us. But Fisher took it into his hands to just like, hey, yeah, you're coming with us. So then, I'm assuming they took the Shadow Gate because on their way back to the tomb, where they would travel, it was barred from the outside, and two vampires from the tavern were guarding it. Antarian, oh, excuse me, and Cole. Saeris thought that the High Bloods had taken things into their own hands and were keeping her out. But according to the two, he sent them to watch for Belkin's men and to let Saeris and Fisher out the moment they came through. Now, they kept referring to this person as a he, but we later find out that they were actually talking to Tal. Tal had given them orders to keep an eye on this. I'm assuming that they're in with the Quicksilver as well, because that's where I believe the Shadow Gate was, because it was
I
put
think.
before he left for Zavarin. So I think
Hmm.
they're in and that would be where Belican's men would come through. Uh, Fisher was going to go see Foley, go find him and see him. And I want this interaction. So please be the next chapter or two. Let me see the reunion here.
Yeah.
Uh, Saeris is to go find he who posted the two idiots outside of the tomb. Harry tries to joke that he would protect Saeris, but it backfires because Fisher states, hey, Saeris can have half the blood court in graves before he'd pull out his sword, which I'm pretty sure he doesn't even know where it's at because Fisher brought it up and was like, do you even know where it's at? And Karen's like, well,
Hmm.
of course I do. But the way he's like, it was said was like, yeah, I don't know where it's at. It's not on him.
Mm.
So him and Saeris are on the way to Tal's and they start talking. Karen brings up about, spending her whole life hiding, and now when somebody sees her, they're kneeling. She doesn't like any of it. She just needs them to fear her and to let them know that she has power over them. She does hold the power to command their death the moment she became queen, but instead she wants to see if they could be redeemed. And then we kind of get on the topic, he's like, do you even know where you're going? Like, pretty much. So she explains that she consents him, and it's not the same way she consents Fisher. Tal's feels like a leash, whereas Fisher's feels like a deep well, calm and peaceful. So when they get to Tal's room, Saeris gets a sense of deja vu, like borrowed memories, like she's been there before, even though she's never been there before. But I guess it was just a product of Tal and everything that he was familiar with. But before she could knock on the door, Zovina stops her. I don't like Zovina at all. But I
No.
do love that Saeris calls her out by asking Zovina if it was incest for sleeping with their maker, because it sounded like to her, or it sounded to her like somebody was fucking daddy. Yes, girl, you tell her, put her into her place. And then Zovina's like, well, anybody would like crawl to hear his or something. What did she say? Like she made it sound like he was like God worthy. Uh, let me see. Where did it go? Uh, where did it go? Oh, you had have crawled to speak his name, is what she said. But again, Cyrus puts her in her place. Uh, Zovina tried to attack Saeris, but thanks to her edict, Zovina cannot harm her. Then so Karen's like, what's wrong with your face?
Mm.
And
God's
Zovina's
martyrs.
yeah. And Zovina's like, told him, people would pay handsomely for, his head on a pike. And Saeris commands her that she is not allowed to touch Carrion. She is not allowed to look at him sideways, and she is not allowed to tell anyone anything about him, or she'll rip her own tongue out. And then we switch the subject, and she brings up, that Zovina's the keeper of missives. She's in charge of all communication in and out of Almontreuth, anything from battle orders, news to secrets. And during this whole interaction, Saeris makes Zovina kneel the whole time. Like Zovina's like, "Can I get up?" She's like, "No."
I
You're
wouldn't
gonna
let her
stay
up
there.
either.
Exactly. You're gonna stay there. She gets Zovina to admit that she is the reason that Foley had never received Fisher's or Lorith's or Renfis's, everyone's letters. Because according to Zovina, he is not part of the blood court. He is shunned, and shunned vampires do not receive missives. So she makes sure Zovina delivers them to Foley that day, or she will come and find her. And then by the time she's done with her, the only thing left will be her teeth. And I was not prepared for this cliffhanger that we ended on, because Tal opens the door butt ass naked with a raging heart on.
Yeah.
And which just tells them, if they're not joining the fun, then to move along, because it was making him look like a bad host. Yeah, I was not prepared for that cliffhanger.
No.
And I think that's the last thing that Saeris wanted to see, up with him opening the door,
Mm-hmm.
was her sire butt ass naked.
Yeah. No thanks.
Exactly.
Mm.
Did you have anything else?
No, that
Yeah,
was all
definitely
good.
not. Definitely not what I was looking for. But that's where we left off with those 5 chapters. I need more action though. I need more action. Like right now, we're not doing much. And I know this book is like the middle book, so it's more of like your info dump, your filler. This is what's happened before the Big Bang happens. but I need more.
Yeah.
I need a lot more. So I guess we'll see what the next half of the book brings. And again, I think that's why like a lot of people didn't like this one because it's more of a filler. The
Yeah.
in-betweens. We're getting a little bit more backstory, she's figuring out what she needs to do, everything's still new, so like I get it. And it does sometimes certain books. This one for me is not, but there are certain books that do take a while to get past that little info dump before it gets good again. But again, we'll see what the next half brings us. But thank you for watching or listening, and join us next week for 5 more chapters.